What up, IDS Mob? I'm your dating coach, HarryWilmington, and today we're going to be answering a question from a guy who had a woman pull away after setting a date with him, and she has yet to reschedule the date, and he's wanting to know if he should reach out. So I'm going to go ahead and read through this, and I'll stop along the way. He says, "Hi, Harry. Just found your channel, and it is a lifesaver. I have a bit of a question. I was talking to this girl for a bit. She pulled away 2 days before our date. When you say you talked to her for a bit, I would need to know how long you were talking to her. Was it for a week? Was it for a couple of days? How often were you two texting each other? That would give me more insight into what her motivations could potentially be for suddenly pulling away. In these scenarios, I found usually it's a guy that was talking to a woman for quite a few weeks and was talking to her nonstop to where she could start to get a little annoyed or a little bored from the conversation and be starting to lose interest. But again, I don't currently know that part of the situation. Anyway, he says, so she pulled away. I gave her time to think as you recommended in another video. I texted her the morning of our date to see if she was still available. So if you've seen a good portion of my videos, you'll eventually come across these videos where I talk about how confirming dates can actually kill attraction. And this goes into the whole idea of when you set the date, you're basically doing a sales pitch that you've sold her on the reason why she should show up for the date. At the point that you try to hit her the morning of saying, hey, are we still on? For one, it basically reopens up the sales process, which can make her think like, I don't want to do this. But also to the point is that when you reconfirm a date with a woman, unwittingly, what you're actually doing is saying to a woman, hey, so I know we set a date already, but I don't actually think that I'm good enough or worthy enough for you to actually want to do this date or to remember it. So I'm recalling you or retexting you just to make sure that my ego knows that I am actually worth wanting from somebody. And when you give off that impression to a woman, that is not an impression that gives off confidence. It is not an impression that makes her feel as though you see yourself worthy, and it can cause her to second guess subconsciously whether or not she wants to go out with you. So this is one of those things that going forward, this is why I've said on several videos now that reconfirming dates is not in your best interest. It is better for you on the texting situation or the phone call situation when you're setting up the date to get all those details confirmed in that texting session or phone call. You say something as simple as, great, so just to reconfirm, this date, this time, this place, great, I'll see you there. And then you can also say, hey, if you happen to hear from me beforehand, it means something's come up. But other than that, if you don't hear from me, it just means that plans are still on and I look forward to seeing you. But do not be the one to reconfirm. You are better off letting her be the one to reach out and say, hey, are we still on for the date? You'll have more dates that actually stick if you do that than if you are reconfirming. And that's been my experience. Your experience may vary. For those of you watching this, I'd love to hear your experience about you reconfirming and whether or not it resulted in less or more dates happening. Continuing on, he says, so he texted that morning and he says, she was enthusiastic to hear from me again, but told me later that day that she wants to reschedule due to work. That is not a good sign. Women that are canceling a day of dates, that's usually a higher indicator of lower interest because a woman that respects your time would either have not set the date or would have said a couple of days before, hey, so I know we have a date on this day, but I can't make that day. The fact that it's happening a couple of hours before the date starts, that is usually the sign of a woman that is gun shy about going out with you. And in my experience, you only want to go out with women that are 100% sure that they want to show up on a date with you. So this is already a bad sign. He says, I messed up and asked her for her availability. My exact words were, quote, no worries, let me know what day works for you and we'll take it from there. So this is why you don't do this, right? It's because we want to get an indicator from her that she is still legitimately interested in going out with you, but something just happened to come up. And when you go in there saying, well, you can't make that day, what about these other days instead? Or let me know when you're going to be available best free. It lets her know that you are really needy and desperate for her attention. And that's going to start to make her think, why is he wanting my attention so bad? Like, I can't make this date. Doesn't he have like other things he could use at this time to be able to get his attention other than having to have me around? Now that seems backwards to guys because we're like, but she said yes to the date, so why would you suddenly change her mind? until you actually get on a date, you have to be aware that at any given time, doing certain moves or saying certain things can result in her losing attraction. And so you trying to say to her, well, you can't make this date. Okay, but what about some other time? That is an instance of an action that is going to make you look less than and make you look needy that could inadvertently turn her off, right? But here's to the other point. So he says, she did not respond, but seems to look at my stories online. I'll get to that in a second. But notice what he didn't give her space to do. When a woman turns down your date, or when a woman suddenly says last minute, hey, I can't make this date, what we're looking for is for her to say something to the effect of, but I can make this day, but I can do this time instead. In other words, we want her to come back with a counter offer. We want her to be the one, since she's the one canceling the date, she needs to be the one to say, hey, so I'm sorry something came up. I can't make this day, but what about this other day to make up for it instead? We want her to not only just say, hey, I can't make the date, but I can do it some other time, because that doesn't tell us anything. That is not giving us an exact action or time frame that's going to work with her as a makeup day. If she is not doing that, listen to me very carefully, guys. If she's not giving you a counter offer that gives you a specific day and time that would work for her as an alternative, she has low to no interest. And what she's doing at this point is trying to give you what I call the slow ghosting. Like, she doesn't want to hurt your feelings all the way by saying, you know what, I decided I'm not interested. But she's hoping if she does this kind of slow ghost 2 or 3 times, you'll eventually get it and stop asking her out. Because if she was highly interested, she would say something like, I can't make today, but I really want to go. I'll make it up to you. Let's do Thursday instead of today. If she's not doing that, it means in her head, she doesn't actually see you as a potential future partner. But you got to understand women. Most women are not going to come out directly and say this to you. You just have to know that if you're not getting of her, or if she's not the one volunteering the let's do this alternative day and time bit, it means that she's not actually wanting it. Now, to the other side of that, this guy made the mistake of leaving it up to her in terms of saying, let me know when. You take the words, let me know when, out of your vocabulary with women that you're trying to date. Because I can assure you, even women that are highly interested in you, most of them aren't going to try to be the ones to put the foot forward about trying to ask you out. So even if she has to cancel a date for a realistic reason, you saying, well, let me know what day or time works for you best, that you're more likely to have her still be on the side, like waiting for you as the guy to reach out to her to ask for an alternative day. So 2 things are happening here. 1, if she's highly interested, she should be saying, I can't make today, but what about this day at this time instead? That should be happening. If that doesn't happen, my motto is try to ask him out at least one more time just to really solidify whether or not she actually has interest or not, because your brain needs to get it. Like if she just rejects it and you say, that's it, I'm not going to ask her out anymore. What a lot of you guys will be thinking is like, man, but maybe she really did have something coming up. I'm not sure. Like maybe I should have waited around and really seen like if she had something that was going on that she could have rescheduled. So that's why for the purposes of your own thought process and your own brain, I say that if she says she can't go and doesn't give a counter offer, you still keep the control of asking her out again. And you do this by saying, okay, no problem. You know what? I'll check my schedule later this week and I'll see when another time is free for me to take you out. That way you can reach out to her later and say, hey, I found another day that works for me. These are the couple of days that work, right? If you leave it in her control, you'll probably never hear from her again. Like real talk. Now, granted, you could argue, well, if she has low interest and when you reach out again, isn't she going to still give you the runaround or not accept it? She probably is. But you're doing this exercise for your benefit, for your mindset, for your brain to get that she doesn't want you, okay? It's very important. Just as we want your brain to get when women do like you, we also need your brain to understand at what point are women playing with you and not actually wanting you. So I found if you ask a woman out twice and both times she either says, I can't make it, or cancels last minute, or gives you the runaround, 2 times is enough to be like, oh, okay, she has low interest. I get it. I need to stop. All right. And again, women won't tell you this up front usually. So just know what it is and just know that if you ask them out twice and they move it around twice, they're not interested. Don't try to browbeat them to death. Don't do things like most guys like to do, like, oh, well, you need to, well, I get it. If you don't want to date me, you should just tell me, blah, blah. They're not going to tell you. It's a rude thing to do. Most women I find aren't trying to be that rude, at least to your face. So you just got to know what it is and know to move on, you know? Anyway, he says, she did not respond, but seems to look at my stories online. don't take looking at your stories as meaning that she's interested. I have so many guys that say, well, she still checks my page and she still likes my pictures and she still watches my stories. My thing is this, but are you on a date with her? If you're not on a date with her, then none of that other stuff matters. The only metric that you need to use to indicate to you if a woman is interested is if you ask her on a date and she shows up for the date. If you ask her on a date and she cancels last minute but is looking at your stories, is she on a date with you? She is not. Therefore, that is still low interest. At the point that she's on a date with you and she's also watching your stories, now we can say she's interested. But if you're not seeing her in person at all, then that means that she has low interest and you need to be focusing your attention elsewhere until she starts to show more signs that indicate that she has a high interest. By the way, guys, if this content is gelling with you so far and you want to show your support, you can leave a Cash App at $HarryWilmington. You can also go to my website, introvertdatingsuccess.com, to check out my eBooks, audiobooks, programs, and other various things there that will help you learn how to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. All right, so he continues on and he says, in my defense, I was trying not to come off too pushy as you recommend in another video. And if she chose a day that didn't work for me, I would have been honest and picked another day. Well, this goes back to, again, here's what I've learned, real talk, all right? I'm 41, be 42 next week. In my dating travels, I've learned that when women really, really like you, they do everything they can to help you because they want you to know that they're interested. And when they don't have high interest, they do not care, and they will do things like pull away. They'll do things like cancel dates. They'll do things like not give counter offers to when you can see them. And so a lot of you guys I just have found haven't really come across women that are highly interested. And so you're scraping at scraps, hoping that whatever girl you come across, you can just somehow make it work. Women that have high interest, you don't have to do all that much to make it work. You show up as your authentic self, women like you, and when you ask them on dates, they show up. So at my age, if I ask a woman out and she's giving me the runaround, oh, I can't make it, oh, I gotta cancel, I'm so sorry. I don't focus on that woman anymore. I just go, oh, she has no interest, and I turn my attention elsewhere because there's all the time you're spending on trying to convince a woman as to why she should actually show up for a date that you're paying for, that you're taking her on this great time for. If she's having a hard time showing up for that kind of situation, then she's really not worth your time. And the time you're focusing on this woman, you can be focusing on a bunch of other women out there that would actually show up for dates because they'd be highly interested and they'd understand what you're bringing to the table. So at this point, I'd say it's not worth it, but if you haven't had the experience of dating somebody that has high interest, then you're gonna deal with this kind of crap. He says, so my question is, should I reach out to her telling her days I'm free, or should I just drop it? It's been a little more than a day since we last spoke. I'm seeing other girls too, but gotta make sure I don't mess those up as well. Thank you. Honestly, Guy, I would say this. I'd say that you told her to get in touch with you to let her know when she's free, which means that since you put that out there for her, you have to now stick to your word and wait for her to contact you for days that would work better. Now, the probability of this happening, I'd say it's low, but I've also found that when you, as a guy, just drop off the face of the earth and stop trying to reach out and stop trying to ask for dates from these women that have initially, canceled dates or whatever, I found if you legitimately leave them alone and you legitimately wait for them to contact you, then they'll get into their own heads and start thinking, wow, it's been a few days, I haven't heard from so-and-so. Why isn't he talking to me? Like I thought I was this princess that every guy wanted to get with and whatever. And then she'll start thinking, well, he did say to reach out to him if I was free for a date, maybe I should reach out to him. And then so what'll happen is she'll reach out with something like, hey, hi, what's going on? What are you up to? How are you doing? And none of those things are gonna sound like, hey, I found a day and time that works, all right? So just understand, if she reaches out, the first thing she's gonna reach out with is probably like a hey, hi, whatever, right? So at that point, I would not recommend trying to go forth and ask for the date, because what did you initially say? You said, hey, reach out to me when you have decided on a day and time that'll work for you. So she reaches out, hey, hi, what's going on? You say, oh, hey, what's going on? Nice to hear from you again. Hey, I'm pretty busy, nice chatting with you. Talk to you soon, and leave it alone. After 2 or 3 of those interactions, if she's still wanted to date you, she'll get that and she'll say, hey, so wanted to see if you were free for such and such day and time, or hey, I just want you to know that I'm available, X, whatever. But you have to make it really hard for her to get a date with you now. Because think about this, you set aside time to see this woman. You set aside time, energy, money, thinking about a place to take her, only for her to say, I don't want to do that. So she does not deserve for you to make it easy for her to get a date with you now. You are now the prize here. You are now the one that she needs to make sure that when you agree to finally take her out again, she's going to actually show up. And that's not going to happen if you make it super easy for her to get a date with you now. So again, when she reaches out, hey, so-and-so, what's going on? How have things been? Just reach back. Oh, hey, what's up? I've been busy. Great to hear from you. Let's chat soon. Leave it alone. You're not trying to start a back and forth text exchange. We want her to get to the point where she realizes, oh crap, I got to let him know a day and time that works for me. And then when she does that, then you can consider taking her out. But I would not be the one as the guy who's already set up a date to try to set up another date. That is a sucker bet, and that makes you look like more of a needy, desperate guy that she's going to be even less attracted to. So hopefully, guy, this helps you out. Again, if this gel with you, consider leaving a donation, a Cash App, a Super Chat, whatever you want to do. And also go to the website for more of my various eBooks, audiobooks, and content. I'll be back very soon with another video, so be sure to stay tuned for that. I'm Harry Wilmington, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.
You's a bad boy, but you can't stop, won't stop. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class man. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class man. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class man. You a high-class man. You a high-class man. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class man. You a high-earning.